Pleasure.
It means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoy this interview. And I'm going to try to keep it briefly as possible and entertaining as possible.
Okay, let's
I can
start.
see you're smiling already, so
I love to talk, so
amazing. All right. So as you will find out, some of these questions are about cultural aspect of,
Yes.
about living in Belgium, and also cultural aspect of your life in Turkey. And at times these questions could be considered a little bit annoying because they are.
don't worry. If it's annoying, I will tell you.
And then I'll stop.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll tell you.
Okay. Maybe let us wait till this helicopter goes away. They're actually filming us right now because they know Chala is giving an interview.
Are you gonna post
Shaking
this
their hair
part?
already.
Just delete those parts.
Wait for time. I'll see. Okay, let us start. So, what did seem most surprising to you when you came to Belgium? Were there things that you have never experienced before?
Well, the most surprising thing was the weather because I came here on August and it was already quite cold for me.
Yeah.
And another thing was the Belgian food because it consists of so much unhealthy food, but it tastes great in my opinion. And fries, of course, they're really huge and they taste good.
Okay. I was gonna ask you something about the food, but I can't seem to come up with anything, so I'm gonna drop it. Have you been able to mix up with the local people? And when you do mix up, how does it make you feel?
Well, I have a bunch of local friends, and well, some of the Belgian people, especially in Flanders, I think they're really hard to be friends with because some people are kind of close-minded and they're not really willing to talk with you unless you talk with them or you approach them first. It's not only their approach to foreigners but strangers overall, I think. But I think if you want to make some friends from here, maybe you should be the one who is approaching and be friendly. And if you are friendly, no one will say like, no, I'm not gonna talk with you, of course.
Okay.
Sorry for the airplane voice.
Yeah, I kind of felt the ground shaking for a second. All right. But like, have you ever encountered a particular experience that made you feel upset? Because, like, for example, you wanted to talk to a Belgian person, and that person didn't respond to you.
Well, a few times I wanted to talk to a Belgian person, even though I talked to them in English. Some people replied me in Dutch, even though I kind of mentioned that I'm sorry I cannot understand you. They kind of kept talking to Dutch to me. So at that time I felt kind of uncomfortable because I don't speak Dutch, and if someone speaks Dutch to me, I don't really understand anything. So that was not a very nice experience.
What don't you like about your culture? Now let us talk about a little bit more about your cultural aspect, your cultural background. Like, what do you think about your culture?
Well, I'm from Turkey, and Turkish culture is kind of different compared to Western European culture. Like, because I realized that in Belgium people are more independent, but however in Turkey we are not really independent and we have a sense of community. So, but honestly, I like it in Belgium more in that case because I'm also a more individual person. And another thing about Turkish culture is that we are very hospitable. But in Belgium, I don't think it's that much as Turkey. Yeah, that's it.
So, do you kind of miss sometimes the hospitality aspect of the culture that you have there in Turkey?
Well, sometimes, but not very often.
And have you ever tried to be hospitable to Belgian people, the local people?
Yeah, to my Belgian friends, for example, whenever they come to my house, I try to show them the Turkish
And do they like it?
hospitality, and they seem to enjoy it a lot.
How would you describe that hospitality for me? Like, imagine I'm an outsider and I have no idea what Turkish hospitality is.
Well, can we skip that question? It's
I,
really.
okay.
I cannot.
It's okay.
I will delete that part.
This part will be deleted. I shouldn't mention
Reminder
it.
the pattern.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to, I can delete it later. You can send me the video.
Would you ever consider living permanently in Belgium?
Well, honestly, I wouldn't consider it because even though I like Belgium very much and Belgian history and culture is very nice, I wouldn't like to live here all my life because I think the world is very big. So I would like to experience living in another countries instead of Belgium. But of course, I would come back to Belgium as a tourist someday.
Now, let us change that question in terms of not willing to live in Turkey. What would be one of your reasons for not wanting to live
I
there?
say that I'm not willing to live in Turkey.
Oh, sorry. But like,
I'm not willing to live in Belgium forever.
okay. But what if I would ask you, would you want to live forever in Turkey then?
Well, honestly, I wouldn't like to live forever in any specific country because we don't know what life will bring. And I want to experience living in other countries and their culture. So, yeah, that's why.
You're someone with a free spirit, I think.
Yes. Home is wherever you're happy.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's really well said. Now, let us go back to some of the aspects about your culture. So, what does it mean to be polite in your culture?
Well, in Turkey, I think politeness is basically not saying anything bad or offending anyone. So, even if you mean something bad, we should still say it in a nice way so the person doesn't get angry or doesn't get sad by hearing it. Basically, softening our words.
That's true. Yeah. Well said. Now, the opposite. What is considered rude in your culture?
Well, in my culture, obviously saying bad things or doing some acts that are not polite, such as blowing your nose in public,
Oh, yeah.
things like that.
Actually, about that, the first time that you ever see that in the street, what was it like for you?
I found it quite disgusting because some of my friends also do it, but now I'm used to it. Sorry for that answer.
It's okay. Is there anything in this culture, as in Belgian culture, which is considered rude, that may not be considered rude in your culture? Like something that Belgian people do?
Maybe like visiting your friend very randomly without letting her know, because in Turkey we did it most of the time. Without calling anyone, we just show up. But I think in Belgium, it would be very rude.
You need to make first
Yeah.
appointments.
Yeah, in Belgium, it's more disciplined. We have to make appointments, set a time, go.
Yeah, that's really good,
Less random.
good points. Okay, now, if a group of people decided to visit your country, which advice would you give them?
But I would tell them to understand the culture a bit and then see some historical places, learn about the history, and try some new food. And not only just go to beach and do sunbathing, because many people tell me, oh, I went to Turkey. And I ask, where did you go? And they're like, I went to beach, Antalya. So maybe just try to do other things like cultural activities as well.
Turkey has a rich cultural heritage,
Yeah,
so
Turkey has a very rich cultural heritage. However, I think the tourists do not really experience this, especially the ones from Europe.
yeah.
Most of the people, most of the foreigners, they just like to go to beach. That's it.
That's true. Now, could you maybe some of the things that are important, which your culture has given to the world?
can't really think of something very important, but I would say Turkish food because it's very delicious, in my opinion.
Actually, I know you for quite some time. If you had to pick between Asian food and Turkish food, which one would you pick?
Asian food?
Asian food, like, I don't know, like maybe sushi or.
Well, it depends on the occasion
Mhm.
because I personally like every food, so it's hard for me to choose. But maybe I would pick Turkish food because it's about my culture and it reminds me of my childhood because my mom used to prepare it. Yeah, that's why.
What is your favorite Turkish food?
Well, if I tell you, I would have to make a big list. So I don't have a specific one.
You like all of them?
I like every food literally, most of the food.
Uh, that country from another country. Culture. Ah, okay. Now we're gonna talk about adoption of some cultural aspects from outside your country in Turkey, like the neighboring countries, their traditions. What do you think about like? Do you think some of these aspects of your culture have they been influenced by your neighboring countries?
Yeah, of course, because for example, our food is very similar to Greek food, and then we have so many words from Persian,
Yeah.
and then our when you go to Eastern Turkey, you can see some similarities between Syria, Iraq, and when you go to Western Turkey, it's kind of similar to Greece as well. So
Okay.
Turkey is very influenced by its neighboring countries, of course.
That's true. Okay. Now I think I'm gonna ask you some questions about Artevalde and studying here. So, the first time that you came to Artevalde, what was your initial impression?
Well, I realized that it's very small, but class sizes are small as well, which is a great thing because you can just ask your professor anything after the class if you have any questions. And the lecturers, they are very attentive, and if you have an issue, it's really easy to contact them. They mostly reply your email within one day, so which is a very positive aspect.
And in terms of workload, what do you think of that?
I think the workload is quite much in our school because we need to do so much assignments, not only take exams.
So, for example, in Turkey, you had less assignments and more studying materials?
In Turkey, yeah, most of the time we just take exams. We don't really do assignments.
So then the practical aspect which is introduced to us in
Yeah.
Artevalde, do you find that interesting or?
Well, I think it's very useful for us, but in some cases, even though it's interesting, it can be a bit annoying because we have to spend so much time doing assignments.
That's true. Yeah. Now, actually, about the students themselves, what do you think? What is your impression about students who are studying in Artevalde?
Well, I think there's so many kinds of students, so I can't really stereotype them because I think it's very diverse. Like there's so many students from different cultures and like different ages as well. So I can't really say one specific thing about them because if that fits one person, it will not fit the other.
That's true. But in general, do you like the atmosphere that is present here, or
Yeah, I like the atmosphere here.
if you had to compare it to a Turkish one, what would you say?
Well, I didn't really experience university life in Turkey, but as I see it from my friends, the Turkish university life is more chill and they have more fun than us because they don't really have too much assignments. But during when it's their midterms or final exam times, they were studying. So